Hi, it's Alastair from Meridian West. We're now nearly 3 months into the COVID-19 crisis. How has the professional services sector responded during that time? And where do we go from here? Who are going to be the likely winners and losers for the future? To answer those questions, we polled representatives from the professional services sector. I'll also be discussing what the future may hold with fellow Meridian West Director Ben Kent. But first, let's take a look at what the poll results tell us. Our poll is made up of 60 leaders in law, accountancy, and other professional services industries. We first asked people to describe the impact of COVID-19 on their business. Just over a third, 37%, said the impact had been major, with significant cancellation of projects, a reduction in client work, and some furloughing of staff. For most, the impact has been mild, with some client work delayed or cancelled, but with attempts to carry on as best as possible. Looking longer term, a third expect to recover quickly. This group we call the rapid rebounders. They expect business as usual to return within the next 3 to 6 months. Just under a quarter we call belt tighteners. They anticipate budgets being squeezed for the next couple of years as workflow reduces. The biggest group are those who are looking to evolve to grow. They said they will use this opportunity to evolve their business model or adjust their service offering in response to market changes. Now the big picture view. We asked people which parts of the professional services sector would emerge best from this crisis. The results show people feel those with flexible resourcing models or established top 10 national or global firms are likely to emerge strongest. On the flip side, our respondents thought high street firms or mid-tier firms would likely struggle most. Views on startup and industry disruptors were mixed. About half thought they would emerge well, with another half thinking they may likely struggle. So what do these market changes mean for the likely future demand for professional services? Our respondents predict demand is likely to be depressed amongst sectors of the economy which will be most challenged by this crisis, namely retail, transport, construction, real estate, and to some degree manufacturing. We then asked what firm management should prioritise at this time, and 4 key themes emerge. First, sound cash management, ensuring the firm has the resources it needs to pay its bills. And for most firms, this has meant halting pay rises and partner drawings, for example. Second is a focus on clients, communicating to clients, understanding their changing needs, and making sure they remain loyal and well looked after at this key moment in time. A third topic was around being agile and changing strategic course where necessary. This means management needs to be more forensic about what's going to drive growth for the future, and being smart about how to protect market share in markets where firms have dominance today. The fourth theme was around employee engagement. In other words, doing everything possible to communicate to staff, but also making sure they're staying productive and engaged and looking after their well-being. And speaking of people, nearly 3/4, 73%, said they feel generally happy working from home, but concerns were raised in our survey about effective communication, team working, productivity, and an increased blurring of the home work environment. So it seems our survey respondents see some challenges ahead, but are generally optimistic about the potential for the sector to adapt. I sat down with fellow Meridian West Director Ben Kent to digest these findings, and we started by discussing how professional services had responded during the first 3 months of the crisis.
Professional services, generally have not, we need to be clear, has not been as hit as badly as other sectors. No question, they've probably seen their revenues, down versus last year. You compare it to some of the other sectors I know, I've been personally involved with, and it's an order of magnitude better. I personally have been pretty impressed, actually. I think, number one, partners have been very aware of both their clients, and I think, broadly speaking, professionals have done a good job in engaging with clients, supporting them through this. And I think number two is the partners themselves have taken a lot of the financial pain, rather than making mass redundancies, obviously helped by furlough. So I'm pretty impressed with that. I think we don't really know actually longer term. I think we'll really know in the autumn when furloughing ends. I think we'll then see probably bigger redundancies, and I think we'll see much more of a kind of polarization in the industry of the kind of winners and losers. I don't know. What's your impression?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's very much been, a collective effort over the last 10 weeks. I think a lot of people have been, it's new to everybody, this situation. So I think a lot of information sharing, people using it as a chance to kind of communicate with clients, as you say, get a sense of what's working well for people, what's not. But I definitely agree with you about the longer term. And it's interesting, I think, that the survey we did, the polarization there of winners and losers, and actually, arguably those that were at the in a strong position already, a global footprint or a kind of large national UK footprint, expected to do pretty well. Those perhaps looking at an innovative or disruptive business model as well, people are thinking they're going to do pretty well. But it's that squeezed middle that we've talked about actually for a long time. It's not a new phenomenon, but those who perhaps have not a national coverage, don't necessarily have a core niche in terms of sector or service coverage, who are likely to find that things challenging. And I suspect the survey's right in that sense. What do you think?
No, I agree, and I think worth looking back at the global financial crisis. Had a similar sort of massive impact on sort of GDP, and exactly as you said, I think what that showed is the smaller firms, those that had weaker leadership really did suffer. And I think the winners are going to be the large magic circle big four firms. They've got global coverage. They have got a good portfolio of services. So transactional work is down, but regulatory work, insolvency work is up. I think the kind of new disruptors will do very well. I think those that can offer kind of contract lawyers, for example, or have got technology. And we've seen that some of our clients are kind of PE funds and big venture capital are investing kind of hard at the moment. So I think that's something to watch out for. I think losers will be, and we've seen this in stats from the Law Society, private client, residential conveyancing, and I think things could be very grim actually for real estate generally, because I think that's a longer term impact. I just can't see us all going back to having big offices.
No, I would definitely agree with that. And I think the point around these innovators and disruptors, I think, is quite interesting though, because I think there is possibly a counter argument to say that those models that were kind of pre-revenue or haven't really had significant market traction, are they going to find it much more difficult to get funding to grow and scale? And are buyers going to kind of retreat to quality and the kind of service models that they feel most comfortable with? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because we know that kind of startup market is very fragmented, and they at the moment have only really nibbled into a kind of relatively small part of the overall buyer's wallet. So it seems to me that if nothing else, we're likely to see more consolidation there.
I totally agree. I think it's a bit like the kind of .com boom. I think we're going to see a shakeout in professional tech. I think we're already seeing that, and we'll begin to see 3 or 4 kind of solutions dominant in particular areas. And we're sort of seeing this in contract management. You've got HotDots, Cloudless, Contract Express beginning to emerge as the kind of dominant players. That said, I don't think that means that firms and in-house will not be focusing on automation. I think they will be, because they'll be saying, how can we, the cost of the technology is a lot lower than people. It's a brutal equation, but I think that's how they'll be thinking about it. I don't know, what's your feeling?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you just got to look, short term, obviously there's been kind of freezes on, new hires, graduate schemes. I think it will be interesting to see, I think, that how that talent model shifts and whether it shifts quickly or not, because, I think you look at, the legal sector, obviously there have been some changes around, the kind of entrance exams and how kind of people come into the profession, but they've been very gradual, and the model has always been to pyramidal. It's always been bringing people in at scale at the bottom, and whilst technology is chipping away at some of that, I don't know. I think it will. It goes back to that polarization point. I think we'll see some firms that are really eager to change and use this as as their kind of trampoline to bounce off to kind of change. But there will be others, I think, who find it much more difficult to adapt, even though they may know that they need to do that. Because as you say, financially, we look at the figures that we've seen over the last couple of months around, even things like cash in bank. These are big firms, but they don't have big cash reserves often.
No, I think that's right, and I think again, I think we'll see an acceleration in a kind of existing trends. So my suspicion is we'll see a kind of fewer kind of associates and trainees being hired. I think also some other kind of quite expensive partners. I think as the recession begins to hit end of this year, beginning of next, just like we did in the global financial crisis, there'll probably be a clearing out of some of the equity partners. I think there'd also be much more use of kind of contracting services, flexible resourcing. So I interviewed the founder of Flex, for example, and she's saying that longer term that could be a really good opportunity because they can hold the kind of freelance professionals on their books. You don't need to hire these people, and the cost of employment costs are very, very high for professionals, including salaries.
Yeah. Although, if we are moving to a model where, more people are going to be working from home, they don't have those huge office overheads, actually maybe firms can afford to employ some different types of people, actually, build up different teams and different capabilities. There's always been talk of how do we bring people in who have a wider set of skills into professional firms, data being a kind of obvious one that people talk about at the moment. And maybe this will free up some of the opportunities to do that, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely see that acceleration of trend towards kind of the hiring of kind of non-professionals, or whatever you want to call them, data analysts, knowledge managers, technologists, technology designers. I think the demand for those people will remain very strong.
And it's interesting as well. I think that so many people, particularly in the survey, said actually working from home has been a thumbs up across the board. I mean, it's not everybody, but certainly the large majority said that they were finding it an enjoyable experience, actually a relatively productive experience as well. Do you think we're going to move back in a big way to offices? I mean, certainly the commentators suggest not, but part of me also thinks that there will come a point where we will want to make sure we have some degree of human interaction. It's finding that happy medium, isn't it?
I don't know. I think I think a lot of it comes down to the medicine. If there's still kind of peaks and troughs, and it's dangerous to go into the office, and we don't find a vaccine, I really can't imagine that people wanting to go into the office or wanting to have client meetings. If there is a vaccine, I think many people will want to go back into the office. But I think broadly speaking, it's been shown that remote working can work really well, and I think it will come very much down to kind of individual preferences, and the job role. So I don't think, and I think there'll be some individuals who just like working from home, like the quiet time. Others who are more gregarious might like the meetings who will come in. So I think people have to be much smarter about their real estate and kind of adapting to people's individual preferences would be my guess.
But I think there is a point, and I've noticed this. You see this a lot when you do video calls with, particularly with partners and senior leaders, who have clearly very nice accommodation, big libraries, big bookshelves, are well set up to work at home. And I think, without getting too political about it, there are kind of people, early career, who will support services who perhaps aren't paid to the degree that partners are, who are in shared accommodation, aren't set up in the same way to work as comfortably from home. And I think, we've heard lots of nice stories about employers supporting people, making sure that they've got the equipment and everything they need. But, it is a very different experience, I think, being a kind of early career, professional, and how well, you're set up to accommodate remote working long term.
I think that's right, and I think the role of the office will be different. I think it will, particularly for younger generations, it will be great to focus on the if we find a cure for COVID, as a kind of a social place for social interaction. I think the days that you had to go into the office and that's where you did your kind of solitary work. Can't see that carrying on.
Yeah, it's definitely busted a lot of myths. I think this idea that to be present in the office means that you're being productive. You need to be able to show your face, to show that you're contributing. And even things around data security. I've been speaking to some clients recently, and even simple things like how do we sign contracts remotely. We've got over all of those barriers largely. So I think a lot of myths about remote working have definitely been dispelled, and people have had no choice, have they? So
exactly, and also there's kind of a lot of people saying, well, you can only really collaborate face to face. To be honest, I haven't found that to be the case. In fact, I've kind of done more collaboration and talked to more people during the lockdown than before. It's curious.
Yeah. And I think that's right. I mean, I was on a conference call the other day. We were doing a kind of ideation workshop with kind of financial services partners, and there were about 8 people from 8 different countries. And, yes, we could have done that before, but we probably would have done that as a conference call, whereas actually doing it by video, being able to see people, it just makes that whole process a lot more streamlined.
And sharing documents and a lot of the functionality actually makes the collaboration, as I found exactly the same, the workshops and presentations actually in many ways work better online than they do face to face.
I think the tricky thing is going to be, which has an impact on us, but also on the sector more generally, is about the kind of business development side of things. I think a lot of the business development, you think about conferences, meeting people face to face, that kind of top end of the sales funnel. That's going to be a lot more challenging. I think at the moment, my sense is that people have been keeping close to the clients that they know. They've been making sure that they're kind of locking them in, keeping them loyal. But it's a lot harder to kind of reach out more speculatively, if you like, to try and win new business. And I'm not sure we've necessarily all find the perfect solutions to that problem yet.
No, I think you're right. I think because so much marketing is dependent on conferences, seminars, face-to-face meetings, and I think we're going to see a bit of a revolution in terms of marketing, and much more sophisticated and much more digital. It's interesting again working with the PE houses. Their portfolio businesses are using things like HubSpot and Marketo and the document automation in a very sophisticated way, and I think we're going to see that much more in more traditional professional firms, or at least I think we should.
So again, this actually could be a really great opportunity to have those marketing BD professionals actually step up and say, this is the way that we can support you, because actually as a lawyer, as an accountant, you're going to rely on us even more so. You can't just go out your own thing anymore. Actually, there needs that kind of systemic firm-wide support more so than ever.
I totally agree, and I think also becoming pushing back on professionals who just want to pump out kind of their usual slightly dull views on regulatory change. I think you're going to have to really think about how you can make your online content kind of engaging, making it succinct, visual, the good disciplines. But I think that those skills will become really, really valuable, journalistic skills.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? The breakfast we did a couple of weeks ago, very much drew on that idea about, getting, how you kind of tell stories is even more important than it was before, and kind of curating ideas and opinions. Interesting the balance of what you were able to then give away as free value essentially.
Yes.
But then what you are able to pay for. We've seen a lot of conferences now effectively doing that kind of freemium model where you can webinars, half-day conferences for free, but actually if there's some really core value in that, actually maybe there's a kind of exclusive element, a roundtable that actually is something that really kind of pushes people towards premium content.
Yeah, and we were on the call yesterday with the Magic Circle firm. We were talking about how we can make our thought leadership a bit like a box set, and chunking it up like that, and giving people opportunity to either look at one episode or binge watch. And I think it's that sort of thinking they're going to see more of.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, what's your sense then of if you were, let's say you were kind of managing partner, we talked about some of those firms that are maybe going to struggle more, that kind of mid-tier. What would you be saying priorities for the next 6 months, taking us to the end of 2020? Where would you really try and focus?
Yeah, I think the key thing is kind of being able to kind of keep an eye on the short term and the long term. So obviously, if you've got good cash balance and relatively stable revenues, you can really focus on the longer term. But I see this as kind of an opportunity to deal with what I think is probably the biggest issue facing professional services firms, and that's a lack of agility. And I think now is the time to make decisions and implement them quickly, because I think otherwise the market will pass you by. So, and it's when we work with kind of corporate clients versus professional services, that's the biggest difference, is their ability to implement quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's really telling. Those taking those fast decisions, keeping the finger on the pulse of how the market is changing. We were talking in our virtual breakfast this week about the importance of data, and I think whilst it's true that lots of firms have maybe not the massive kind of data sets to run sophisticated segmentation, actually there is a lot of data sitting in firms, both about clients, financials, that you can pull together to actually give you a really clear steer on where you should be going. And I think that if you're not trying to get as much value from the data that you've got kind of in the firm, the data that you can get easily publicly available, and then actually, I know we've talked about this a lot in our breakfasts, but keeping that regular check in with the client base as a whole. I think is that lawyers, accountants, professionals have generally been pretty good at touching in with people over the last 10 weeks. How's it going? Is there anything we can do for you? Let us know if things are tough, etc., etc. But actually starting to build that composite portrait now of where are you vulnerable, which sectors are likely to be really hard hit, where may growth opportunities be, and to do that in a systemic way as much as possible. Some regular check-ins with the client base, more holistically, I think incredibly important. That's what I would be doing.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it's two points. One, agility, use your data, and I think 3 is kind of really look at your sort of technology stack, not just contract automation, but across the piece. Because I think the technology is sufficiently mature now and also sufficiently cheap that it's pretty much a no-brainer to be implementing a lot of this stuff. And what we've lacked is the kind of mind space to think about and implement it. So I think people often have a bit more time now. So I think digitize anything that can be digitized, because I think we're going to see a polarization between the digitally enabled firms and those that aren't.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And those that aren't, we may not see them this time in 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah.
I think the last financial crisis was pretty brutal. A number of key names fell by the wayside, others merged, and there's no reason why we're not going to see the same again, I think. So a big thank you to Ben Kent, and also to all those who took part in our poll. For more insights on the changing professional services landscape, subscribe to our YouTube channel